We recording? I have to always start that. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Alex with ALP Entertainment with your boy Luke. Luke, say what's up.
What up, what up?
We're gonna be talking just sports today, mainly football. Both big Nebraska Husker fans. We did suffer another devastating loss. I mean,
Oh, yeah. It was same thing, that we've seen all these years before. But with new coaching staff, so it's a little hard to really pick and choose what you want to believe, if this is the same thing that's going to be repeating itself, or if you need to give it time with all this new coaching staff and new offense. And I'm not really sure where I sit quite yet with it.
But before we get into that, we have to acknowledge we broke a world record here in in Lincoln, Nebraska. We set the world record of 92,003 people.
It was fuller than any football game I saw last year.
At Memorial Stadium for women's volleyball. It's the world record for the women's sporting event. That is insane. And it was funny because my mom asked me the day of the match. She goes, "Why is Lincoln playing Omaha?" Like, not to disrespect Omaha, but it's like, if we wanted to break that record that Wisconsin set, why would we not host Wisconsin?
Yeah, I feel like they just wanted to have. I was having that same kind of thought, but my thought was more, why wouldn't they play against Creighton?
Oh, yeah.
Just to have a better competition, like more equal playing field. Obviously, I think Nebraska volleyball would still beat Creighton because Nebraska volleyball is the Alabama of women's volleyball right now. But no, I think it was more just so they can get as many people in the state together cheering for kind of the same thing. They didn't want to separate people.
And I think they did a good job, too, of utilizing our smaller colleges that we have here, like Kearney and Wayne State, which are smaller D2 schools here in Nebraska, that they played each other in the first match. I think was at 5? And then the Lincoln-Omaha game was at 7.
And it wasn't the 90,000, but it was, 50, 40, 50, 60,000 people. And
people still showed out.
People showed out, and they said on the TV that the most people that come to see those games are around 5,000 people. So for these girls at the mid-level colleges, this is the biggest stage that they've ever been on. So it was really good for them.
It's good to see, too, that, this type of, not publicity, but just exposure to the sport is letting these young girls and young women see that they can do this too. Anything's possible in this sport. So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, it's popping off. Women's basketball and women's volleyball right now are two of the more popular sports to watch.
That is true. Next question I was going to ask you is then John Cook, right? John Cook's won 4 or 5 national championships. That is insane, in my opinion, that we have not named the arena after him yet, or even have a statue of the guy.
There'll be a statue. And they talked a little bit about how they feel like Husker volleyball is getting almost too big for the Bob Devaney Center. And so, nothing's in the works, but I feel like eventually they will outgrow the Bob Devaney Center and they will need a bigger stadium because the sport itself and just their team as a whole is growing so rapidly. But no, John, I'd vote for him for mayor, to be honest with you, of Nebraska. The dude is a class act and he knows what he's doing and he's about as professional as you can be.
He just reminds me of that grandpa that everybody loves.
Yeah, wearing a cowboy hat at all times.
Yeah, you just love him. He gives off good energy. He's a good coach. He's done his job. I don't honestly hear about him recruiting. I don't know if that's just something he doesn't do because he lets our state and talent speak for itself.
I feel like he's built up such a rapport and he's such a godfather of women's volleyball that he doesn't need to, which is a luxury that everyone would love to have, where you don't need to reach out as far as you would, as another coach would, to recruit players just because of your status and the status of your program. People will come to you.
And to it could be the same for Nebraska football, right? We have the consecutive sellout streak.
Yeah.
And Memorial Stadium just hit 100 years old this year.
Yeah. So imagine if we ended up winning games.
Yeah, imagine, right?
People would want to come here. We wouldn't have to convince them very hard.
I think that, honestly, though, Matt Rule has done an amazing job of getting the right coaches. Yeah, it's going to sting for a while. It's going to hurt. We're still trying to repair our hearts from last year and the year before. But I think, like I said last week, I think Matt Rule is the right guy to do it. I think he got the right people in place. I think you've got the right coaches. I looked at more of his track record of the teams he's coached. Year one of Temple, Baylor, 2-3, or I'm sorry, 2-10, 2-10. And then he flips them around the next year. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to us. I think this year is our easiest schedule that we're going to have for a while, especially with the new teams coming into the Big Ten.
This is our best chance to win the West. It's the last year of divisions. And so if you ever want to hold on to that title before it disappears forever, this is your best chance, because the West division in the Big Ten is not that scary.
No. So I guess we'll dive, now that we're kind of transitioning into football, let's talk about the game. So we lost pretty much last second field goal, and the Minnesota kicker is the best kicker in the nation.
Although he did miss earlier in the game, and so I wasn't convinced he would make it, but it doesn't help when the announcers say that he's the best kicker in the nation.
Yeah, they definitely jinxed us, in my opinion. I like our kicker, though, Tristan Alvano. Shout out Westside again.
All I heard the couple days past the game is if he would have just had a shot. The announcer said that if he could get to the 45-yard line, maybe the 47, that he would have a chance. But I think everyone in the state of Nebraska knew that they literally needed to get to the 40-yard line on their own end zone. They would trot him out there.
Yeah,
he's got the leg of an NFL player already as a freshman.
I agree. I did think, me personally, I thought the offense was very lackluster. I think Jeff Sims underperformed. He's a good runner. That's what we said last week. It's what his report card shows. He's a good runner. The report card also shows he led the nation in turnovers all 3 years at Georgia Tech. So that baggage came with him to Nebraska.
Yeah, they were talking about that, how, we've seen him do this at the previous school where his passes are flat. He kind of stares down his targets, and then his decision-making is kind of up in the air. And then even during the camp season, they said that they kind of noticed a little bit of that happening too. So was I surprised that he turned the ball over? No. Was I surprised they turned the ball over 4 times? Yes, because Matt Rule sounded very confident in the preparation that they had and the what's the word I'm looking for? The
game plan and everything
that. The game plan, but to be to not make mistakes, polished. He was, from what he sounded like, it sounded like we were going to be a pretty well polished team with not many mistakes where we shoot ourselves in the foot, and that's kind of what we saw in game 1, and that's kind of why a lot of the Nebraska fan base started to go up in arms after the loss.
And I think too that we ran a lot of Jeff Sims runs. That was it. It wasn't a lot of pass plays. I wish that we would have got Washington more involved. I wish we would have got Kemp more involved. I do think that the running backs look good. I wouldn't say great. They look good. Obviously that fumble at the end really hurt us. That was a decision that Matt Rule stuck with, of putting Anthony Grant in, especially after he had numerous problems in camp of fumbling and ball security issues. I wish, you can't predict that stuff. I guess from a football coach, you can't predict that. You can only teach it and hope that your guy understands, hey, it's 2nd and short, 3rd and short. Give me the first down, put your head down, run. But it just seemed like the perfect tackle.
And for me personally, I know the stats say that Gabe Irving averaged almost 7 yards a carry. That is a little skewed from his longer run that he had where he broke off the tackle at the line of scrimmage. As far as eye test goes, I really believe that Anthony Grant was the better running back. I understand the fumbling problems, and when you're getting that close to the game and just the reputation that Nebraska football has, I know a lot of people would probably side with the safer option. But going throughout the whole game, I was telling the people I was watching it with, I really thought Anthony Grant, as far as the eye test goes, was the better running back. And it's kind of a coin flip whether you want to go ahead and trust the guy or ride him or what you want to do. And they decided to put him in that situation, and it ended up not going our way. But
it was kind of the play calling, right? Everybody's quick to criticize the play calling. I thought, we didn't really take many deep shots. You have Kemp. I love Alex Bullock. Shout out to him. that trick play that wasn't supposed to happen. Everybody can admit that trick play wasn't supposed to happen like that. It was just not a fluke, but it is what it is. We scored off it. For those who didn't know or didn't watch the game, we just pretty much did toss to the halfback. He lateraled it to Jeff Sims. Jeff Sims threw it to Alex Bullock, wide open in the end zone, to now scholarship player walk on.
Yeah, and it's a little concerning that our only touchdown came off of kind of a fluke play where Jeff Sims bobbled it off the ground and then picked it up and threw it all in one play. But yeah, so our offense has definitely got some questions to answer. I know Matt Rule wants Satterfield to be up in the booth so we can kind of see the progressions and things that's going on, but Satterfield likes to be on the field. I wonder if they're going to have more of a conversation about that going into this week, just because it seemed like a little frantic and miscommunication as far as offensive play calling and situational players being in and things like that. So, I mean, first game for everyone, first game for players, first game for coaches. These guys, it's the first time that they've all worked together on a field in a real game. So
yeah, and I think too that we should have utilized the run more. Like, I think that's something that you can constantly preach here at Nebraska is utilizing the run. I mean, they hyped up the fullback. Fullback was in for 3-4 plays.
Yeah, Bullock shoot, what's his name? They were talking about that. I think it's Bullock.
No, Alex Bullock is the wide receiver.
But isn't it Reggie Bullock?
No, I thought so. It started with an F. But anyways, it was just like, you didn't utilize that formation yet. And I understand you don't want to show that right away because it's week 1. But at the same time, it is a Big Ten opponent. Like, that's a conference game that you need to win.
Yeah, it was a must. I mean, everything's a must-win game, but first game of the season coming off of what our previous years looked like and against a conference opponent, they were going to do whatever they could to win, whether it was part of their game plan or not. And I feel like that's kind of why they ran Sims so much. They don't have too many playmakers at wide receiver, and their running game was, after the first quarter, it started to pick up a little bit. And I feel like that's what we'll have to do against Colorado. I think their DBs are too good, and we don't have good enough wide receivers to create separation. So it's going to be a lot of tight ends and running downhill.
We'll get around to that here in a minute. I thought the O-line didn't look the greatest, as always. I feel like we're recruiting a lot of big O-line. O-line didn't look the greatest. We're having a lot of issues protecting Jeff. Like, I know they rushed 3 on one of the sacks that they got Jeff on. I think it was like 3rd and 4, and they sacked him. And it was something where we had 5 offensive linemen blocking, and they rushed 3. It's like 2 double teams and a 1-on-1. It's like, how did the guy push through a double team and get to Jeff? Like, I thought that was kind of, I would say unpreparedness. I just felt like we were kind of fatigued at that point. At the same time, though, that, like I said, we got to run the ball.
Yeah,
like, we got to run the ball, especially when we don't have a wide receiver core that's dependable yet, and a quarterback that can't really throw that he's shown us. He's a runner, so maybe we'll see some triple options next week. That'd be sweet.
I mean, they're going to pound the rock against Colorado next week, and that's kind of what they had to do against Minnesota. It was. I mean, they were just trying to win that game any way they could, and their DBs kind of locked up our wide receivers, and so we just had to create for ourselves, and we did what we could, and then it ended up being the same thing, same dance, same song, where one possession, end of the game, kind of changed everything, and so we're gonna have to really see if we can get that fixed.
I do like, though, the defense. I thought the defense got a lot better. I think we're flying around a lot more. I think we're playing more just freely. We're not kind of like by the book.
Yeah,
kind of the best way.
We're gang tackling really well. We're flying to the ball.
We're playing instinctively. Like,
yes.
Right, we're just playing with our reactions and just being able just to run free. I do like our new defensive coordinator, Tony White. I do like his formation, the 3-5-3. I think it's sweet. I also think it's strange, especially from a coaching standpoint. It's a formation you don't see, you won't ever see, and you can't really prepare for it unless you watch film on it, like from years ago. So I don't know. I'm curious to see kind of how we do against, Colorado, with Colorado's wide receivers being studs, the quarterback being a stud, like we saw against the TCU game, where 45-42. It's a high scoring game, but
we know for a fact that Nebraska's defense is better than TCU's defense. I think they had TCU's defense ranked over 100, and our defense right now is ranked around 31st. Now, this is just the first week of college football. And then if you want to look at it and flip-flop it, Nebraska's offense is past 100 versus Colorado's offense, which is below 30. So it's really going to be kind of a flip-flop game for both teams, Colorado and Nebraska, and we're going to have to see which side of the ball steps up.
I do like our secondary. I thought our secondary did really well.
Yeah.
Obviously, like with the 3-5-3, you're going to play a little bit more of a cushion, so you're going to let the corners be off a little bit more. But I will say they were more physical. I do agree that they were gang tackling better. I thought the linemen looked faster. I thought the linebackers, Nick Heinrich didn't play, which is strange to me.
Yeah, they had. I listened to someone talking about that. It was less Heinrich and more. Oh shoot!
Is he battling an ankle injury?
I think so. I think he's a little nicked up, but I think they needed someone to be a little bit quicker back there. And I wish I had the depth chart in front of me, but I know that the freshman, the younger player, was playing a little bit more than Heinrich against Minnesota, and that might just because of it being nicked up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and then I do like the special teams too. Like I love that our special teams look good. Like now we have a legit kicker. We did get, a punt almost blocked, but they roughed the kicker, so thankfully we got a first down off of that. I think that our punt coverage needs to be better. I think our what do I say? Like not pretty much our punt formation, just punting in general form. Punting and then punt return needs to be a little bit better, in my opinion. I loved how Matt rules like we're not going to fair catch, but it's like we fair caught the second one.
Which honestly, they didn't drop the ball. It didn't actually hurt us in any way. And one of the times, Ramir Johnson popped one off for
that was like 60 yards.
Yeah, 60 yards on a kickoff return. I told myself I can get used to this if we're not gonna fair catch it.
If you can get us at least in field goal position, I'm okay with it. And
especially with our offense, we need all the help we can get. It sounds like.
I thought it was cool that he put running backs pretty much 2 and 3 back there.
Yeah, they had first team, second team guys on special teams, and that's how you're going to be good at special teams. And we're going to need that special teams to be good because it doesn't sound like our offense is going to be all that reliable. So we're going to have to lean heavily on defense and special teams. And really, the defense, I thought, had a lights-out game, and the only thing that kind of maybe skewed people's opinions was the last play of the game with Hartzog. And the dude had a great move, and he was leaning towards the inside. He needs to know that he's got that safety's help on the inside and needs to stay on the outside.
Oh, yeah, I'll speak from a former wide receiver. That route was crisp. It was to crisp. The T. That was textbook to the T, crisp. It was beautifully executed.
Minnesota's quarterback didn't even help the wide receiver he threw him late, and the wide receiver made the play with the 1-foot toe drag. If the quarterback hit him a lot sooner, it would have looked a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think also too, you could say it's luck, but I don't believe in luck when it comes to a wide receiver skill set. Like having that field awareness of knowing where you're at, like especially in the end zone where you have maybe 5 to 7 yards to work with to a sideline, knowing that you have that little of a space, that guy has been probably practicing that move essentially in practice or every single day since he was a kid.
Yeah, he had, it looked like 10 yards to the sideline after he took his initial cut and left Hartzog in the dust. It was
he
pretty
looked like the Jordan logo.
Yeah,
he looked like the Jordan logo.
It was a top 10 play for sure. But I hope that doesn't skew our opinion on Nebraska's defense. They were lights out on the run, stopping the long pass. Really, they let up some of the short intermediate passes, but by the time they got towards the red zone, they shut that down. So I thought the defense played spectacular, and it was really just that one play at the end, which kind of sucks because that's kind of been Nebraska's thing, is that one play at the end.
Mental mistakes is what kills us. And I think that's another thing that Matt Rhule is trying to change is like he's acknowledged it. He's like, look, the past is the past. I'm here now, and I'm going to make the future better. And these mental mistakes, I'm going to prepare you guys so we don't make those mental mistakes. But you can't game plan for 4 turnovers.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you on this. So this is my thought process. Colorado, they won their first game. they pretty much cleaned the entire house and brought in 60 plus new scholarship players. None of these new players on the team had the losing mindset that the 1-11 team had previous. With Matt Rule in Nebraska, they had brought back 50 plus 50 plus players, most scholarship, back onto the team. All of those players have a losing mindset instilled into their heads. And so it's hard for me to decide if I should trust Matt Rule after a couple of games to get that fixed, or if these guys just have that mindset. And so, I mean, I'm really on the fence. I don't know what to think, and I've been trying to learn as much as I can.
That's a good point. I mean, I can speak from like my playing experience and my coaching experience. I've never been the person that's like, going to the game you're expecting to lose. Like, I've always been taught and trained to you're going to win every game. Like,
I'm sure that's what they were taught. I feel like just after that initial, in the fourth quarter, when that first thing happens, all these 50 plus players that have seen it before, they say, this is the first step. I've seen this before. And I just wonder how Matt Rule can change that mindset.
Yeah. And I hope that he's trying to fix it, right? Like, but there's some things he can't fix. Like the ball security, you can't really, like, he can't fix, right? He can teach you how to be ball security, but the fumble to Anthony Grant, that was a textbook tackle. I will give credit where credit's due.
He punched it out pretty good. Yeah, but he needed to,
I got to give credit to that. The interceptions, that is all Jeff. Like, I hate to say it, but I will applaud Jeff, and I will give mad respect and shout out to Jeff Sims for acknowledging that, like, hey, that was my fault. I take full blame for it. I listened to his post-conference afterwards. He took full acceptance of the turnovers, and he said, I just got to get better. So I applaud that. It seems like he actually cares, where it seemed like Casey didn't really talk to the media much last year, in my opinion. I thought it was more Frost talking. Casey didn't really have the chance to voice himself. I wish he did. Shout out to Casey, though, because Casey balled out in his debut yesterday.
Yeah, he did. He was like 30 of 35, something ridiculous like that. 4 touchdowns. I don't know. He played really well. And then we did see a couple of other Nebraska native players balling out for some other schools, and it just makes you think
what could have been.
But we have what we have now, and it's a ride or die situation with Jeff Sims. I truly don't believe that they're gonna flip-flop to a different quarterback midway through the season.
I think Jeff's the guy.
The guy, and whether we like it or not, and they're going to have to game plan around his weaknesses if we want to have a chance at making a bowl.
What did you think of the first pass completion to the other quarterback?
It really opened my eyes onto how light our wide receiver room was. I know Heinrich Harburg in the camps, he had won a dunk competition, and I know he's super athletic, and so I try to just convince myself that's the reason why he's on there during that play, is pure athleticism. But I mean, he got
a first down.
First down. Yeah.
It was a fake RPO. I mean,
it worked, so I have good thoughts about it.
Yeah, it looked
as
good
of right now.
Going into Colorado next week. So we play at Colorado. It's Colorado's first home game. I will say, though, that the Colorado AD has been very adamant to telling their fans, do not sell your tickets to Cornhusker fans. I want the stadium to be black and gold or white out or whatever their color they're being this game. I don't want to see any red in the stadium. My brother's going. My brother lives up in Seattle, but he's a Nebraska native, obviously, so he's going there. We travel well. Like,
if you thought that we filled Minnesota's stadium up pretty well, it's going to be a little bit more than that at Colorado. That's for sure.
Just the rivalry we have with them. Just the history.
People a game plan to go to this game specifically. I know there's a lot of Husker fans that live out in Minnesota, so I expected to have a decent crowd out there, plus all the regulars that travel regardless. But no, I'm expecting a solid 50-50 crowd in Boulder next week.
I agree, and I just can't believe that, like, their ADs, like, demanding, don't sell your tickets to Nebraska fans. It's like, dude, we're gonna travel. Like, whether or not we can get in the stadium or not, we'll be tailgating. Like, we will be there, and like I said, we travel heavy, and we're going to show up and show out regardless of the score.
It's going to be the most watched game of the entire year. I would put my money on that. the whole country's in on Deion Sanders now, just on the way that they've won and just stuck the middle finger to the world on how to build a college football roster.
By transfer portals,
by transfer portals, yeah,
and Tier 5, just completely just dumping your program.
Super cutthroat, you know, and we're not used to seeing that, and it worked for him. I mean, at least the first game it worked against the last year runner-up national champion.
I don't know if this is true or not. I read this that Colorado only had Deion Sanders' deal is like $29.5 million. I think that's what it was reported, and Colorado had to raise money to pay his contract because they didn't have enough to pay him. So I think from what I read that they raised $28 million through donors, fundraisers, donations, whatever it may be. They raised $28 million. So now they owe him 1.5 at some point. I don't know if it's all guaranteed or if it's over the stretch of whatever his deal was, but why would you, I didn't say why, but I kind of know the answer of why would you invest that much money into a guy that, you know, hasn't really coached that long? Like he's an older gentleman, yeah, but he's a young coach. Yeah. Meaning like he hasn't coached long.
They were, I mean, if we think that Nebraska was bottom of the barrel, Colorado was underneath that bottom. And they have a really young, from what I hear, they have a young staff and a young athletic director that's running the program. And so they were more okay with hiring this outspoken superstar coach or superstar player turning into a coach and taking that chance just because of how bottom of the barrel they were. And they were talking how Nebraska would have never took the chance with Deion Sanders because Deion Sanders and Trev Alberts don't speak the same language.
Do you remember the video of when he was at Jackson State during like their bowl game or their championship game for their conference? It was rumored that Nebraska was reaching out to Deion, and so that was like the big story because we hadn't hired Matt Rule yet. We didn't interview Matt Rule yet, and then Deion posted a clip of the locker room and goes, "Those Nebraska boys don't know what they're talking about. I'm not coming there." So, I mean, I think Deion kind of put a stop to it immediately.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm almost 1,000% sure that if we would have extended the offer, that he would have taken it, because I don't really understand a person that would take a job where they say, we promise you this money, we don't have it yet, but it will come, unless that's your only really option to go to. So I feel like Colorado was really the highest Power 5 football program that was offering him a head coaching job, and that's why he took it.
And I agree with you too. I think Trev Alberts didn't want him to come in and complete clean house.
It would have. Yeah,
it wouldn't have worked.
They would have butted heads.
Yeah, so I agree. Now that I think about it and kind of hearing you talk about it, I agree. I think Deion's ego.
We have a lot of old white guys running Nebraska. So
yeah, I think
say what it is.
I agree. I think Deion's ego, would have gotten in the way, and I don't think that Trev would have liked that. I think Trev wants a family man that is a blue collar man, which is Matt Rule, essentially. Matt Rule is Penn State linebacker.
He wanted a coach that reflected the people of his state, and he got that. He got one of the better program builders in college football, and I don't know. When you're a program like Baylor or Temple, I feel like as a fan base, the small fan base those two programs do have, are okay with a longer wait and just the patience to build a program because how bad they were previously and no success in previous years. They never had any success in previous years. With Nebraska, they have had success. They have been the Alabama of college football. And so for the fans of Husker football, they want to see things happen a lot quicker than they happened at Temple or Baylor. I feel like that's the reason why a lot of these fans are up in arms right now.
So to like the same point of like Colorado's like offense or just team in general, I mean, that Hunter, what's his last name? Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter,
That's what it is, Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter played both sides of the ball. He plays both sides of the ball, right? He plays a wide receiver and corner.
He played 110 snaps, and for reference, an NFL game is 154 snaps just around.
That is insane. But I also think that his fatigue showed. I know that Dion made it a point to kind of like sub him in and out, get him rest when he needed to, and he did drop some long, deep passes that you know he's made in practice, he's made at camp, he's made in his previous you know seasons, I guess, essentially in his career. I think that fatigue showed. I also think that our corners are way better. I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
biased, but I think
Nebraska's defense is better flat out than TCU's defense
we are going to be without Ty Robinson though,
for
because
the
that targeting.
first half of the game.
Yep,
That's right.
because he got that targeting. I do think our backers are going to hit him a lot harder. I think that our defensive line is going to power through that offensive line. I honestly think this game's going to be one in the trenches. I hope that it
We're
isn't.
we're going to do everything we can to turn it into a Big Ten game.
I think to your point, a key to victory, a key to the win is going to be ball control, meaning do a Big Ten way, hold on to the ball, run the ball, pound the clock all the way down as deep as
Ugly
you can
it
go.
up.
Yeah, literally just run the ball. Don't pass it unless it's like 3rd and 5. Hope you convert, or if it is, try to get those 4 yards so it's 4th and 1, so you can pound it down the middle again. Especially with Jeff, where you can just jump up, lunge across using his 6'4" frame. Like I think that we definitely need to slow the game down next week. Otherwise, I think they're going to put up another 40 bomb on us.
Yeah, if we turn this into a shootout, a foot race type of deal, then Colorado's going to come on top. They have by far the more explosive offense. Now, with our defense compared to TCU's, I know for a fact that we hit harder and we crowd to the ball better, and I think we just flat out have a better defense than TCU. And I really believe that Colorado's first teamers are probably about as good as anyone in the country, top 25,
Yeah,
I think for sure. I don't think they have a lot of depth. And so this is going to be an ugly, grinded out type of game like we saw against Minnesota. And if we take control of the clock and keep care of the ball, I think we can come out on top if we play that type of football.
I know that TCU has like one of the best quote corners in the nation right now with that Newton corner who stopped Travis Hunter quite a bit. He wasn't targeted much. A lot of the touchdowns were thrown to the opposite side of the field, so that shows that his presence was felt. Obviously, we don't have a stud corner like that on our team. I think we have stud corners.
Yeah,
We have
Quentin Newsom is probably the closest that you can get to a stud corner for Nebraska.
he's more of a safety, which
Is he?
yeah,
Okay.
he's more of a full
So who do you
safety.
think is going to be covering Travis Hunter?
Harzog, maybe. I don't know. Like the problem is the frame, right? Like
Yeah.
Travis Hunter is like 6'2". Like that's the problem. Is are you going to be able to cover his speed and his size? I think we're going to double team. I think we're gonna have a safety hovering over him at all times. And I like kind of like you and I thinking we're either going to send a blitz almost every single play, meaning the outside backers or the middle linebacker is going to go, or we're going to play like a QB spy, meaning just like whoever the middle linebacker is just going to wait for the quarterback to take off. I think it's going to be Reimer.
Yeah. And we didn't see too much of a QB run game out of Colorado against TCU.
No,
It was more
passing.
passing. Now we don't obviously we know the athleticism at Colorado's quarterback position, and so you can't just discredit that. So you're going to have to plan for him to run a few times, that's for sure. But no, he was definitely a pass first, run second type of quarterback.
I agree. I think he surprised a lot of people. I will say he surprised me. I did not expect him to be that accurate. I didn't expect him to be that like athletic. I mean, you're Deion Sanders' son. Like that's a pretty heavy weight to burden and to carry with you. I thought he stepped up to the plate. I will give credit where credit's due, and they look good. And
Yeah,
I'm genuinely curious about. I'm
I didn't want to
worried
be
about next
impressed, but
week.
I was impressed.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't want to believe it, but they're here. I don't. Speaking from a coaching standpoint, from like a football standpoint, I really don't like the way that Dion handled the transfer from HBCU to Colorado. I thought he could have been a little bit more respectful. The fact that he only kept 2 or 3 players from last year's team and brought on 67 kids, like that's,
And I'll be honest with you, I don't think he knows a player's name besides his son's.
or Travis,
Anytime that there's anything that happens with one of those players, he says, "Love you, love that guy,
that boy.
that boy." I don't think he's on a first name basis with any of his players besides his sons.
I
And
agree.
that's completely different from where Matt Rule comes across as a coach.
I think that's a good point. I think Dion's kind of just, hey, are you fast? Are you athletic? Yep. Okay, get out there. Are you a 5-star? Yeah, get out there. I don't think he's recruiting linemen, right, or linebackers, or even a defensive perspective. He's letting someone else do that for him. But I think once he makes that transition, once they jump ship to another conference, they're going to find out soon that you can't just recruit speed, you have to recruit size. So I think the lack of
I think what they did this year was probably perfect because they're still in the
12.
Pac
Yep.
12. Yeah, the offense they run, and just from the first game I saw, they're going to be a okay in the Pac 12, I think.
Do you know who they play after us?
Colorado State.
Oregon. They play Oregon right after us.
They do?
Yeah,
Colorado does?
Colorado plays Oregon right after us. I
Huh.
could have swore that's who it was. Yeah, I was like, look that up. I could have swore they played Oregon after us, or if they played Colorado State then Oregon. But I wouldn't.
No, you're right. So it's Colorado State after Nebraska. That's their biggest in-state rivalry, and then the next week is against Oregon.
That's gonna be huge because Oregon put up an 81-point game yesterday.
Yeah, Oregon's a true top 25 team. I don't know if TCU, they might maybe towards the end of the season might climb back into top 25, but their defense was pretty awful.
Colorado's jumping into top 25. I'm
And
guaranteeing it.
I would not be surprised if they were just in the top 25 when we played them next week. I know the sportsbook line 4 days ago. This was unbelievable. 4 days ago, the sportsbook line was 8.5 favoring Nebraska. As of today, Colorado is just over 2.5 favorite to win this game. So in less than a week, it is completely flipped, and that's just kind of what Deion Sanders did was bring the hype all to Colorado and then prove it on the field. And unfortunately, Matt Rule didn't do that.
Yeah, I I unfortunately agree. I mean, it sucks. It sucks losing. In the end, everybody wants to win, especially Nebraska fans, where we've seen defeat after defeat after defeat from the
Especially the same way. Yeah.
exact same way. I
That's
mean,
what hurts most.
what was it like Scott Frost's record? Where he's like 3-21.
I saw a chart where it was I saw at least 10 games where Nebraska had a 90+% chance to win the game,
And we still blew it.
and then the bar just dropped.
We almost beat. I can remember last year there was a couple games that we were completely not in, and I remember one of them was Ohio State. Right, Ohio State is that team every single year. They recruit well, they coach well, they play well, everything top to bottom. Ohio State is that team. I do remember last year though we actually barely lost to Michigan.
Yeah, I don't
That
think
was
this defense not is not built to get blown out. Now, are they going to make mistakes and lose a game? Yeah, they will, but they're not going to there's not going to be any 30, 40 point blowouts, not even against Ohio State, I don't think. I think the scheme and the seniority that we have on defense will help us at least stay in some games and not create that blowout.
I agree. I agree. I would say let's go. Let's stay on the football topic. NFL season starts this week. That's a big deal. A lot of people. You and I play fantasy a lot.
Yeah,
We are in the same league.
multiple leagues.
Yep, we compete. Big game. First game is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'll make that known right now. I'm not a Chiefs fan.
No, since I'm a Bengals fan, I am a known not Chiefs fan.
I'm a Broncos man at heart. Always have been. Always will be. Let's ride. Unfortunately, don't know where we're riding to yet. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But I will say I've been a big fan of the Detroit Lions. Their head coach Campbell is a guy that don't know if you guys know this, but they're on Hard Knocks, and his coffee order got leaked, meaning he has 3 large coffees from Starbucks with triple espressos in them. So that's like 9 shots of espresso.
If you're going to be eating kneecaps, you got to have as much much
he's
coffee as possible.
Dan Campbell is a monster, and I love him for it. I love just his old school mentality, like the way he coaches, and they're a team to look out for. I mean, I think they're going to play smash mouth blue collar football, kind of like what we're hoping for in Nebraska, where we're going to pound it down your throat and we're just going to hit you.
Yeah, well, their fan base is behind it too. I know they've already sold out.
It's the first time in, I think, since like 2002 or 2003 that they sold out season tickets.
Yeah, so I mean, the hype is real. Their 53-man roster is very respectable, very good. Um, I'm excited. I am pulling for them to win against the Chiefs. I don't expect them to win. Glued onto that TV because one, I have lots of fantasy players playing in that game, but two, I just want to see Dan Campbell cry on the sidelines after beating Kansas
As much as
City.
I hate the Chiefs, I do respect Pat Mahomes. I do respect his greatness. I'm not a big fan of Travis Kelsey, in my opinion. I think he's just a glorified frat boy. But you gotta give credit where credit's due. I think they're both top 5 in their craft almost all time. I think Pat Mahomes is the top quarterback in the NFL. Kelsey is
Yeah,
the top tight end in the NFL. But I would say all time, like they're breaking records. They're getting up there. Like obviously, if Pat Mahomes gets a couple more Super Bowls, I mean, you got to put him in the conversation of the GOAT with Tom Brady. I mean, or Steve Young or Dan Marino or whoever you have as your GOAT quarterback. But Mahomes is doing stuff that's like unheard of.
and he's really doing it with. He doesn't. I mean, he's got some good wide receivers, but he doesn't have that Jamar Chase, that like that all-star wide receiver. He relies heavily on his tight ends and his skill to get the ball to his
He,
average wide
he
receivers.
just plays backyard football.
Yeah.
And it's sad that it works, but it does. We'll go to the so we'll just kind of go down the line of who's playing this weekend. Eagles and Patriots. Who you got?
Eagles for sure. I think they're one of the better rosters in
I
the
would agree.
NFL.
Fly Eagles fly. Shout out to the Keyshawn and Clarence Brown. Let's go Texans and Ravens. Who you got?
Uh, Ravens are in division with the Bengals, and so I hope they lose, but I do believe that they will win. I know Texans are kind of on a rebuild this year, and they won't be as bad as people think, I believe.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think CJ Stroud was the right choice. I think that the DeMarco Ryan coach that they brought in from San Francisco is the right guy. I'm going to agree with you. I think Lamar Jackson, OBJ, Zay Flowers
Yeah,
is
they have
just
too much
too,
talent.
yeah, they got way too much talent. Harbaugh is going to run that offense again. We're just going to run it at you. And Lamar's, I feel like, going to probably throw maybe 14 passes. He's not going to need to throw. I think he's just going to run.
I did see a thing quickly, real quick, is all of the quarterbacks that did not play any preseason games last year. I saw a thing last year. All the quarterbacks that didn't play preseason games that combined in week one, they went 3-8. So I know Lamar Jackson did not play obviously any preseason games as he was getting his contract underway. So we'll have to see if how much rust he has coming into his first game.
You guys play the Browns week 1.
Ugh.
Deshaun Watson's back.
They, yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally in on Deshaun Watson. I think he's still very average. Can we piss down our leg and lose this game? Absolutely.
You guys did it last. You guys did it last year. You
Yeah,
lost like the first 3 games and somehow still made the AFC Championship game.
yeah. So I think the Bengals will win. Would I be surprised if they lose? No, just because Joe Burrow is coming off that
Like the calf
the
injury.
calf injury. They say he's good to go week one. I know they signed Will Greer as a backup. And so as far as backup goes, if he gets nicked, I'm fairly okay with Will Greer.
I'm rooting for you guys. I'm also rooting for Amari Cooper from the Browns. Not because he's not on my fantasy team. I just
like Nick Chubb too.
I like Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I just like Amari Cooper. I think what he did in Dallas was very underappreciative of the Cowboys organization, and they should have never got rid of him. Like they let him go for no reason, and I think he's going to show them that should have paid me, should have kept me. So the next game is the Buccaneers versus the Vikings. I personally think I'm going to take the Vikings here. The Buccaneers don't really have a set offense yet. Their defense is always stellar. Shout out to Levante David. Go Big Red. I just think the Vikings offense is just that good, especially Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, they got veteran quarterback. They got arguably the best. I won't say the best because I am a Jamar Chase fan, but I'll say second best wide receiver in the league with Justin Jefferson. I think their offense will just be a little bit too much for them to handle, even without Dalvin Cook.
That is a good. Oh yeah, I forgot he went to the Jets. That's a good point. Good call out. Tennessee Titans versus the New Orleans Saints.
Oh,
I'm gonna go Titans here.
uh,
I like
this
D
is where
Hop.
we're gonna just. I No, it's pretty much a toss up for me. I'm gonna go the Saints. Why are you choosing the Titans?
D Hop,
Yep,
Traylon Burke,
I
who is
forgot about
both
D Hop.
giant wide receivers for both, big targets. Ryan Tannehill is a winner. I mean, I hate to say it, he's a winner.
He's
He's an
he
average quarterback. He does what he has to do. Plus, you got Derrick Henry behind you. Like you don't need to just do much. It's like hand the ball to Derrick and just get out of the way.
Tannehill is a nice steak at a Golden Corral. It's gonna get the job done. It's not spectacular, but he will get the job done.
Well,
See, who's the? Is it Jamar or excuse me? Is it
uh,
Jameis Williams or
James Winston. No, it's
Winston?
Derek Carr now. Derek Carr is the starter.
Okay, so boy, Derek Carr. I don't know where to put him.
He was the Raiders
I know
quarterback.
he
It's
super good guy. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I'm gonna. This is a toss up for me. I'm gonna go Saints. I think they're gonna throw to Taysom Hill as the tight end a lot.
and
I
just
think
go
it's
from
gonna be
there.
yeah. I think it's gonna be a weird game to watch.
Two young teams, Falcons and Panthers. I've been very adamant to like our friends and like our
Fuck
group
the
chats.
Panthers.
I'm rooting for the Panthers. I think this is where we disagree. I'm rooting for the Panthers, but I'm also rooting for the Falcons. I think um, Bryce Young is the guy in Carolina. I think Adam Thielen, who's the wide receiver that came from Minnesota, is a good asset for him. He's a good wide receiver to teach him kind of the ropes of the league. But I also like Atlanta. I like Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London.
It
Like
it's really a year in the NFL for rookies slash just like first 3 year kind of type of players. All these guys are starting to come into major roles onto their teams, and it's going to be that's why it's going to be an interesting season. I think, because we're going to be watching so many young guys play.
Jaguars and Colts.
I have no faith in the Colts whatsoever, so I'm going to go Jaguars.
I agree. I think the Jags are, especially what they showed last year, that they made one mental mistake against the Chiefs, and that was it. But I think the Jags got it this year. I think they're definitely a hot topic Super Bowl contender. I really do. I think that they're a good young team that's coached well from Doug Peterson, who's
Yeah,
Super Bowl winning coach from the Philly. I think he's the guy.
I think, and Trevor Lawrence has gotten slightly better each year. Um,
I was such a big hater of him when he came in the league. I thought he was so overrated, but
Sunshine,
it
yeah.
shows that you need the right coach.
Yeah, Doug Peterson can get the job done. I don't know if they'll be Super Bowl contenders. I do believe they'll get in the playoffs with ease, honestly, because I'm pretty sure they have one of the worst divisions in all of football is the Jaguars division. Who's in that division? Because I know
Uh,
it's bad.
Texans, Colts, Titans, Jags.
Yeah,
The
so
Titans are going to be your
I
biggest
stand.
challenge. Niners and Steelers. I'm going to go San Francisco. Like the Niners are just them.
Yeah, Niners. I mean, they're kind of up in the air with their quarterback right now. I trust Mike Tomlin more um, with what he's got. I I'm going to go with Mike Tomlin. It's hard to bet against Mike Tomlin. He's not going to lose. He's almost guaranteed 8 to 9 wins a season, and I don't think the first game of the season will be one of them.
They 49ers lost last year, first game in that like slip and slide of a wet game
Yeah, they
against
got.
Chicago.
I know Kittle's banged up. They're still trying to figure out if it's going to be
Oh, Brock.
Brock. Well, I think it is going to be Brock,
It is
but
going to be Brock, and then Sam Darnold's number two.
and on paper those two names don't scream out at you. So
Especially Brock Purdy being the last draft pick in the NFL, but it worked out. I mean, he
now
works in.
Jordan Pickens doesn't also scream out at you on the other end with the Steelers.
No,
It'll be a very average quarterback battle.
Kenny Pickett and George Pickens. George Pickens has got like black Air Force energy.
Yeah,
Like he just bullies you as a wide receiver, but Kenny Pickett's weird, in my opinion. He's a weird cat. All right, Raiders or Broncos? I don't know.
I am going to go with the Broncos.
If
I
I'm
don't think the Raiders are going to be super good this year, especially Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't even think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play till halfway through the season. I don't think he's
I
healthy.
if I think Jimmy G is going to play. If he does, I don't know how his physical went. If Jimmy G plays, I'm taking my biasness out of it. I think the Raiders win. I really do. I think the Raiders win only because Jimmy G is a winner. He was a winner in San Francisco. He was a winner in New England. I think he's a winner wherever you go. He reminds me of a Tannehill. He does what you need. He gets you the touchdowns you need. He gets you the yards you need. He makes everybody else around him better, not by much, but better. And I don't know. I can't trust Russell Wilson yet. I just can't.
No, and it doesn't sound like really anyone trusts him. Did you see there was a video of a former player that said that Russell Wilson has a lot of apologizing and like
You got a lot of
making things
baggage.
up. Yeah, he's got a lot of baggage to do some to his former teammates. That doesn't sound like a popular man in the locker room, and he's definitely not a popular man amongst fantasy players.
Chargers, Dolphins.
I boy, Dolphins are explosive and scary. Chargers like to choke a lot.
I'm going Miami.
I'm
Going
gonna
Dolphins.
go. I'm gonna go with Miami too. I think their offense is just too good.
Packers, Bears. I'm gonna go Bears
A lot of people are trying to hop on the Bears train this year. They think Justin Fields is going to be
with DJ Moore. I would agree with you.
the
I'm
next
only doing
guy.
it. I'm only doing it because I think the Packers don't have an offense. But Jordan Love
No,
balled out in preseason.
I think the offensive line, running game, and honestly the quarterback game will be better for the Bears. So I'm going to go with the Bears.
Rams, Seahawks. Matthew Stafford, I don't think is clear to play yet for the Rams, so I'm gonna go Seattle.
Seattle. See, I I'm going to go with the Rams only because I really liked what I saw from Stetson Bennett. I think he's going to. I don't think he's going to ball out the whole season, but I think this first game he's just going to ball out. Everyone's going to be like, "Oh, maybe he should be the starting quarterback."
Maybe he's the Brock Purdy.
Yeah, maybe he's the Brock
Sean
Purdy.
McVay, the head coach of the Rams, is the guy. Like he's the offensive mastermind of the NFL,
He'll
other
put
than
him in
Kyle
positions
Shanahan.
to win. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cowboys or Giants?
Boy, not a lot of people are liking Daniel Jones this year. Um,
I'm going Cowboys. Or
I
I'm sorry. I'm going Giants this year.
You're gonna go Giants.
I'm going Giants.
I'm gonna go Cowboys. I think their defense is too talented, and I think Dak Prescott is gonna try his best to ball out game one just to prove some doubters wrong because he's got some haters to quiet up, and so I think
I
that
think the Giants are a sleeper this
you
year.
do.
I really do. I
I
think.
don't trust Daniel Jones one bit.
I mean, I told our friend the other night when we were watching Nebraska game that I think that Giants are a sleeper team this year. I really legit think that because Saquon is playing angry because he didn't get his contract fixed like he wanted it to. Um, I'm not positive of who their wide receivers are. I need to do some more research on that. But they do have a new head coach. They do have a new OC that was there last year, and it worked. Their offense got substantially better. Daniel Jones got paid, so there's the curse of the money, right? Whenever you get a big contract in the NFL, it's been proven numerous times. You get a big contract, you either get hurt the following year or you kind of plateau, or even worse, your career just goes down the drain and you just progressively get worse.
yeah, I don't know.
And then lastly, the Monday night game, the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets.
Oh God. Well, my starting quarterback is Aaron Rodgers, so I'm gonna go with the Jets. Uh, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have an MVP season. I think people don't want to believe it because they hate his attitude. They hate what he's kind of about. He's kind of a not kind of. He is a weird dude.
Dude,
He's a very weird dude. He's still got it though. He's not. He doesn't
yeah.
got those deep balls, but he will make every right decision, and he's not going to shoot himself in the foot.
I think this is probably the most stacked offense, defense, special teams Aaron Rodgers has ever had around him.
Yeah.
Period. Even when he won the Super Bowl, I still think that this is like the team for him. Obviously, he's way older than his colleagues and his teammates, but who knows? I think that these young guys, and even now with Dalvin Cook, you got Brees Hall coming back, those two giant running backs. I think that I'm picking the Jets.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't believe in the Bills or the Bills Mafia. I just think that Aaron Rodgers, kind of like you said, has got it still. I think his experience is going to play out. It's going to show out. And also, I think that the issue with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, that they had like the beef with each other during the offseason, hasn't gone away.
No, it hasn't. They tried to make it seem like it did, but
I
it
think that
didn't.
they put a band aid over an open wound. they're just hoping that it closes. But
They,
it
I mean,
would
they really
surprise me.
said that the head coach of the Bills could be on the hot seat this year if they don't go too far, and it people don't when they hear
If
that
they don't
they
win the
don't
first
believe
one.
it because so many things have happened to that organization in the past couple of years with the Hamlin thing. There was a mass shooting that happened at a supermarket in Buffalo, and like just their team and how they handle it has been really good, and so that kind of covers up some of the mistakes they had during their season. But I did hear today that if for sure if they didn't make the playoffs, I don't think they'll miss the playoffs,
No, yeah,
but he wouldn't be the head coach anymore. If they're saying that he could be on the hot seat if they didn't get close to the Super Bowl this year.
I do have to show love to Von Miller, who's Broncos. I'm gonna say legend because he is. He's Super Bowl 50
Is
MVP.
he still on the roster for the Bills?
He's still in Buffalo. Yeah,
Okay.
they signed him to that max contract, so he's still there. Um, Von Miller's presence was felt, and when he got hurt towards the end of the year and couldn't play in the playoffs, it showed.
Yeah, it did.
I mean,
I remember.
he's that kind of guy. Even though he's kind of getting up there in age, he still shows value, like kind of like what Aaron Donald does for LA. Like you have to game plan for Von Miller as much as you have to for Aaron Donald. So as much as I want to root for the Bills this game, I'm gonna root for the Jets. I think the Jets edge it out. I'm gonna say 21-17. Very minimal.
Yeah, I think it'll be a shootout for sure. I think it's going to be back and forth.
Um, I think that's good for today. I would say. I think we're gonna wrap this one up right now. We're gonna have a big Colorado game to discuss next week. That's gonna be huge. NFL season starts Thursday this week, so
Yeah.
we'll get
Did
some
you did you want
recap
to
on
try and get another one in before the game, or you want to do one after the game?
that. We could probably do one before.
I think so too.
I was like, I got some
there's
free
going to be
time.
some more thoughts happening over this week on the game leading
Yeah,
up to Saturday.
especially as a lot more is kind of coming out from like practice and stuff for Nebraska. We can see, especially with Dion and Colorado getting as much limelight as they're getting right now. I think curious to see what Matt Rule says during the week, especially
Yeah,
Trev. I
me
like to see
too.
what Trev says. So we appreciate you guys listening as always. Stay fresh,
Absolutely.
stay tropical. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right. See you later. Bye bye.
Peace.